So anyways, let's go ahead and get started. My name is Turney and I'm the portfolio director for CK representation. And just before we get started with Inkaterra, I want to give a little more of a personal story behind just my history working with Clark and also with Peru. So the reason I know Clark pretty much is because of Inkaterra. I began selling tours to Peru and Patagonia with a company called Paragon Expeditions back in 2015. And basically, Clark noticed our company name, sending lots of people to Inkaterra. He reached out to me and came down to Texas and we hung out. And, of course, he taught me all about his portfolio and pretty much took me under his wing and helped me become an expert in selling these regions. So actually, before I even was the Central America portfolio manager for CK representation, um, I was a Peru expert. So Peru for me is kind of my bread and butter. It's what made me fall in love with Peru and with also the luxury adventure travel industry. So I think Incaterra really encompasses our entire portfolio, what we're truly about. More off the beaten path, sustainable, focus on really high level of service, but also integrating amazing cultural and uh, outdoor adventures. So let's start off and take you through the world of Peru through Inca. So pretty much for Peru, anyone, if any clients of yours reach out, they're going to say, well, I want to go Peru. And you say, why? Well, I want to go to Machu Picchu. I'd say 99% of people who are visiting Peru for the first time, that's their goal. They want to go see Machu Picchu. But what is also an amazing part of Peru is the Amazon. So the country is really interesting because you've got the Andes Mountains that basically splits through the middle of the country. And on the right side, you've got the Amazon, the jungle. And then on the left side, you've got basically mountains and more arid region all the way down to the coast. So the location of Machu Picchu and Cusco in the Sacred Valley and even the Amazon are quite unique because they're in the southern region, but they're literally at the cusp of where the Amazon meets the Andes. And that's what makes Machu Picchu such an incredible destination. And I always tell people, even if Machu Picchu wasn't an ancient citadel, I think it would be a place where people go visit because it's like an environmental phenomenon. So let's start out with the Amazon. And sorry, I keep going back to this map, but it's just super helpful. So basically, for the Amazon, guests will go visit before or after they go to Machu Picchu. There's flights from Lima and from Cusco, which make it super accessible to arrive here at the Amazon. The flights are to Puerto Maldonado. You can see basically where the river port is. The airport is maybe 5 minutes from here. So once you arrive, you hop on a boat, and it's either a 30-minute ride to Hacienda Concepcion or a 45-minute ride to Reserva Amazonica. I would say these are more accessible ways to visit the Amazon instead of doing the boat cruise from Iquitos, because that is a more extensive itinerary. So Reserva Amazonica is maybe a little bit more luxurious, I guess, if you want to use that word, than Hacienda Concepcion. It's great for honeymoons and multi-generational families. I think the best way to see the Amazon lodges is to maybe spend a night or two at Hacienda Concepcion and then continue to Reserva Amazonica. But there's several people who will spend the entire duration at Reserva Amazonica as well. So here's a little drone footage. You can see where the cabanas are located, literally on the edge of the Madre de Dios River. And they are, quite uh, rustic. This is a true Amazon lodge nestled into the environment. So when you wake up in the morning, the screen windows allows you to hear the sounds of the rainforest, see the animals, and of course combined with a little bit of luxury. So you can see the plunge pools. There's a spa, a pool, and the restaurant. That's one thing Inkaterra really takes a lot of pride in is their food and their service. Inkaterra pretty much is the pioneer of luxury adventure travel in Peru. So with years of experience, they kind of lead the way. And I'd say a lot of people in Peru follow their lead. So yeah, again, spa is incorporated into here, which, I think is really interesting because while you're here, you're not going to be doing so much chilling. It's a place where you want to adventure and really experience wildlife. So if your clients are into wildlife, of course, this is a place that you don't want to miss in Peru, especially with the easy accessibility of being able to fly directly to the airport in Puerto Maldonado. So here's just a few more of the experiences: cooking class, flowering bath. The tower is a huge highlight because if you go early in the morning, it's excellent for bird watching and wildlife viewing. And the classic treehouse. I actually sent the first clients that I ever booked travel for were friends of mine from high school who went on their honeymoon, and they stayed here in the treehouse and said it was an amazing experience, but it's quite rustic. You're literally in the treehouse. So for honeymooners or couples who want that type of adventure, the treehouse is a cool option. And so Hacienda Concepcion is very similar. I would say, less spacious. You see it's all in one building, opposed to Reserva Amazonica, where there are individual rooms separated, not by hallways, but by trail. So yeah, as I mentioned, Hacienda Concepcion is not as expensive, but it still offers pretty much all of the same things: spa, full service for food, adventures and tours, coffee, and of course the wildlife. So if you want more privacy, maybe Reserva Amazonica is better. But if guests are okay with hotel rooms that are attached to each other by a hallway and a balcony, then maybe that's a better plan. All right, so just keep in mind for the Amazon, it's especially great to be at sea level. So you can't go wrong if you go before or after. You don't have to acclimatize. It doesn't mess with you at all to go up to the altitude to see Cusco in the Sacred Valley. So here's where we really need to pay attention because in order to get to Machu Picchu Pueblo, um, everyone has to arrive in Cusco, right? Which is at about 12,500 feet altitude. And what we always suggest is going directly to the Sacred Valley. Because if you arrive in Cusco and stay there and do too much, or maybe drink a little bit too much Cusqueños, have too many beers, you might get dizzy and it can be a pretty bad experience. So what we suggest is flying into Cusco and then immediately descending into the Sacred Valley of the Incas, which is about 9,500 feet altitude, so a lot less. And here we want to spend a couple days acclimatizing at Urubamba and then going into Machu Picchu, which is, sorry, back to the map. It's about 7,500 feet. So I'm just going to show you by map really quickly. When you're at Hacienda Urubamba, in order to get to Machu Picchu Pueblo, have to go to Ollantaytambo, or there's a Urubamba train station as well. And from the Sacred Valley, there's two different ways of arriving. So you either take the train at Ollantaytambo or Urubamba all the way to the Citadel, which is the town of Aguas Calientes. And Machu Picchu Pueblo is literally at the train station, which makes it even more convenient. However, if guests want to hike to Machu Picchu, do the 1 day hike, they get off the train here at KM 82 and then do the hike, which is about 6 hours to 8 hours. Sorry, not at 82. KM 82 is the start of the 4 day hike, and KM 104 is the start of the 1 day hike. So those are the two different options. And that's what makes Inkaterra amazing. You know, there's a hotel in the Sacred Valley in Machu Picchu and at Cusco. So you basically can book all three of them to create a really cool itinerary. But there's also several different hotels in the Sacred Valley and Cusco as well. Machu Picchu is going through kind of a unique time right now because the other luxury option here in Machu Picchu is the Belmont Sanctuary Lodge. And unfortunately, it's about to close in May. That's the rumor. Never fully know with Peru if that's going to happen or not. So I do believe that there is the Andean Bear Sanctuary, Lucy. I'll have to double check on that and let you know. But that is certainly a highlight. They'd have an Andean bear sanctuary where you can get to see the bears more up close. Or if you're super lucky, like some of our guides, if you do the 1 day hike or the 4 day hike, you can actually see them in the wild. They're vegetarians, so don't worry. They're like panda bears. They're nice, cute, cuddly bears. Anyways, back to Machu Picchu. The Belmont Sanctuary Lodge is about to close, making it that Machu Picchu Pueblo is one of the only options. So there are over 80 rooms here and three different categories. So these are the superior deluxe rooms. These are the standard. So you can get either two beds or a king bed. The junior suite is a little more spacious, bigger bathrooms, king bed, kind of combined with the living area. And then the junior suite deluxe is just more spacious. So you get the idea of all the rooms, use real wood and create the atmosphere that you would expect to be in at Machu Picchu. They've got amazing pool and hot tub and lots of different activities. So that's one thing that really sets Inkaterra aside from everything else in Machu Picchu is that sometimes, for example, I led a group in 2018 and we hiked from KM 104 to Machu Picchu, and then we were supposed to do Huayna Picchu hike the next morning. So yeah, this is the restaurant, as you can see, buffet style. But anyways, yeah, when we finished, we were just too exhausted the next morning, so we opted out of the hike and decided to do some activities here, which I'll show you soon. I'm just giving you a little more of a virtual presentation of what you can expect at the Pueblo. So yeah, the Unu Lodge or spa, I'm sorry. This is a good example of something you can do instead of hiking and visiting the Citadel again. They have a lot of traditional type of spa options that you can choose from. But my favorite is the authentic Andean sauna. The only thing I've seen similar to this is actually in Guatemala, where they mock like a Mayan type of sauna. So it's pretty interesting. I mean, I think Peru and Guatemala have a lot of um, parallels, like because of their ancient traditions. So I always think it's important to do as the Inca did, and this is one really interesting way to do it, and kind of just take a break from all the craziness that Peru entails in terms of physical um, the physical attributes of all the hikes and adventures. It's nice to take some time to treat yourself. So more of the adventures at the Pueblo. You can do bird watching. The Orchid Trail is a mega highlight. I know a lot of people out there are orchid fans. My sister is crazy about this. So it can definitely be a highlight. And they have a farm on site too. You would never imagine a farm and tea growing at Machu Picchu, but at the base, it's essentially become like a little town. One thing that's also super nice about the Pueblo is, of course, located next to the train station. Instead of having to backpack and walk around town, you can pretty much check out of your hotel, still do the spa, have access to the locker room and showers, or do checkout later. But there's trains throughout the entire day, so no need to worry about when you're going. But if you're doing the Hiram Bingham train by Belmont, it's important to know that it leaves every day at 5 p.m. So you will need a late checkout or activities to do throughout the day. And yeah, it's a very customizable experience as well. I don't think sometimes people say, I want 2 nights at Machu Picchu Pueblo, and that's okay, but really one night is fine here. Just arrive, um, d- do the hike of the ancient citadel, and then also continue the next day to do Huayna Picchu or continue back to the Cusco. So let's go to the Sacred Valley of the Incas. As I mentioned, it's always best to come here directly from Cusco and stay here first, and then go to Machu Picchu Pueblo. And after that, you've been acclimatized for several days. So at that point, you can go finish your trip in Cusco. So we're kind of going in the reverse order, not to confuse you, but hey, that's how it's set up. So Sacred Valley, Hacienda Urubamba, this is one of my favorite properties in the world because it has a hotel where you can book a normal room, as you see here. I think there's 17 connected rooms, and then there's several individual Urubamba suites. So there's a couple different price points you can choose from, but the views are impeccable wherever you're at on the entire property. I love just waking up here early in the morning, walking around, taking in the sounds and the sights of the Andes Mountains. And personally, I think it's worth spending extra money to get one of the Urubamba suites. It's really nice having like a little private home to yourself in the middle of the Sacred Valley of the Incas. And yeah, I mean, Peru is interesting because all these hotels are just spectacular, right? But you don't really end up spending a ton of time here because there's so many different activities and experiences to do in the Sacred Valley leading up to Machu Picchu. And of course, as the other Inkaterra hotels, service and food are at the top of the priorities, right? So we want to make sure everyone has access to wellness, they're eating healthy, they're really getting to experience not only the culture and the activities of Peru, but also getting to know the food and the people and all of the wonderful aspects of wellness that it offers. So on site at Hacienda Urubamba, there's the Chaya Huasi hike, which is not too long, but it's great for bird watching. So this tour leaves early in the morning if you want to do bird watching, or in the afternoon to see a sunset. And you can even do a chicha de ora class. If you know what that is, chicha is corn beer. It's very light. I think it's like 2%. So you can drink like a bucket of it and still be okay. Maybe not if you're Clark. I think he would drink like 3 buckets of it. But we always encourage having a great time here in Peru. You're always well taken care of, but altitude is a thing. So just make sure you tell your clients to drink lots of water and to drink appropriately. I'll put it that way. We don't want your clients going to Machu Picchu and not remembering it. One part of the Sacred Valley and Peru, which really made me fall in love with it, is the spiritual aspect. Apus is the mountain god, and Pachamama is Mother Earth, the feminine version. So they always do a payment to the earth called sometimes called a Pachamanca offering. Just basically, you sit down with a shaman. No drugs are involved, so don't worry. But you provide things to the shaman, and he basically says a prayer to the earth to secure your journey throughout Peru and to get you home safely. So for me, I think it's super important to partake in those activities, and they can be set up here at Urubamba or at Machu Picchu. Before I go into Cusco, this will be the last slide, and then I'll have time for a couple questions. But just know that you can book all this directly through Inkaterra. That's fine, but we don't mind if you book through a DMC. In Peru specifically, It's a bit different than other countries. I always 100% of the time recommend booking with the DMC. The original manager of Inkaterra, Ignacio Macias, broke off and now has a collection of hotels under the name of Andean, and they also have a DMC called Peru Empire. So I'm more than happy to connect you with Peru Empire, or I have connections with almost every DMC in Peru. So just build a relationship with one and get to know them. And if it works, great. If it doesn't, I can hook you up with others. There's Enigma, Cultor, lots of different options to choose from uh, in Peru. So let's finish off here at Cusco after going to the Amazon and then coming up to Urubamba and Machu Picchu. You're finally acclimatized and ready to fully enjoy Inca La Casona. So this remains a Reliant Chateau hotel. Machu Picchu Pueblo and Urubamba are both part of Virtuoso. And it's a smaller hotel, right? So I think it's like 12 rooms, and it's a historic building. I mean, it dates back to pre-Spanish arrival in Cusco. It was one of the original, uh, sorry, why can't I think of it? The Inca. It was an original Inca building that had been taken over by the Spanish. So it's right next to all the action in Cusco. You can do walking tourism here, and it's definitely one of the most luxurious. So it's really, I always recommend, again, staying here at the inn, not only for acclimatization protocols, but also because it's just a delightful stay. I mean, it's basically you get to live like Inca royalty for the short time that you're here. And I always recommend at least 2 nights in Cusco. Really, three is even better because there's so many activities to do nearby, like go see Sacsayhuaman, go to the markets, see the different churches, and it's basically a must to do uh, a city tour in Cusco and really get to understand the inspiration of the country from the Inca Empire and then the invasion of the Spanish to what it is now. Cusco is one of those places that takes time in the past from all our history and combines it with the modern day insanity that we live in. So it's one of my favorite cities in all of Latin America for sure. But again, I think you get the idea. Inkaterra, we do as much as we can to give back. And that's one thing that I've always loved about this hotel chain is that they really do care about Peru, the local people, the culture, and protecting the environment. So by staying with them, you're not only giving back to the country, but hopefully you're gaining something to bring back home and be inspired. So thanks all for your time, and I'll stick around for a couple minutes to answer questions.